This Saudi card is not up to scratch, it's not as good as the ones we've had lately, and we need to talk about it. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. Guys, today I want to talk about the latest Saudi card that's been fully announced now. We've known for a while that Bivol Beterbiev is going to be on October 12th, but we finally had the full card announced. And in this video, guys, I want to run through 4 different ways that I think that this card could be fixed and improved. Because to be honest with you, the standard of the cards we've been getting used to with the Saudis have been absolutely tremendous, really high level stuff. And for me, this one isn't as good as the rest. I'm not saying it's a bad card. I've definitely seen worse. But for me, it was a little bit disappointing given the levels that they've set for these cards now. Please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy it. Also, please get your thoughts in the comments below. This is a channel where I encourage discussion. I want to hear your thoughts on what I'm talking about. Point number 1, and the first thing that I want to address in this video is the running order of the card. For me, the fights on this card, they're not the way they should be, and I think there's a lot of ego involved in this. I think there's a lot of promises that have been made to get some bigger names on this card, and in exchange for that, they need to be in a certain position on the running order of this card. I'll take you quickly through what the running order is currently. At the moment, we start off with Mohamed Alakel versus Jesus Gonzalez. Honestly, guys, I'm not sure who either of these are. First couple of fights, I'm not interested in. Sky Nicholson, Raven Chapman. Again, I've seen a bit of Sky Nicholson, but I'm not too interested in that fight. Ben Whittaker against Liam Cameron. We've got Opetaia against Jack Massey. Fabio Wardley versus Frazer Clarke. Chris Eubank Jr. against Kamil Seremeta. Shakur Stevenson versus Joe Cordina. And then, of course, the main event, Beterbiev against Bivol. Now, I'm going to assume that the order they've posted this card in is going to be the running order of the event. And to be honest with you guys, I would be making some changes here. I don't think that this running order gets the best out of the card. I don't think it creates the right hype and excitement. And to be honest with you, I think it needs restructuring. So I'll go through with you the order I would have it in. So the first 3 fights, I would keep exactly the same. Alakel against Gonzalez, Nicholson against Chapman, Whittaker against Cameron. For me, that's fine. Those 3 fights as the first few fights on the card. Absolutely no problem. But then we have on the running order right now, Opetaia against Massey. I'd be putting Eubank Jr. against Seremeta in that position. For me, this is an inconsequential fight. It doesn't really do much for the 160-pound division. Eubank Jr. has beaten much better guys than Seremeta. And to be honest with you guys, at this point, as a fan, I just question what value I'm getting out of Eubank Jr. You know, it's called prize fighting because they're paid to go and fight. Eubank Jr. has obviously got a big name. And he's made it very clear he's all about his business. And so I'll treat him as such. If he's all about his business, I'm all about my viewing enjoyment. And I don't want to watch Eubank Jr. against some random guy. I know Seremeta's had an okay career. I know he's been in some fights against some big names like Golovkin, like Munguia, beaten by both. But what does that really do for us? What does that tell us about Eubank Jr. as a fighter? You know, if he looks impressive, it might sort of lead you to think he's got more left than he actually does. I think Eubank Jr. is about 34 now. So he's kind of coming to the end of his career. He's coming off the back of that that revenge win against Liam Smith. I guess Eubank would tell you that he needs to tune up to get ready for bigger fights. That 160-pound division isn't great right now. And so I look at it and I go, you know, Eubank Jr.'s never won a legitimate world title. I know he was an IBO champion, but no one really considers that to be a legitimate world title belt. And right now you look at the division and there's a genuine opportunity for him to really attack it and go, this is my chance before I retire, before I end my career, to go and become a world champion at 160 pounds. Is that not what he wants for his legacy? You know, fair enough. Not my business whether he thinks he's made enough money or not. He's welcome to go and make more money. And I'm guessing he's probably getting paid above the odds to fight this level of opposition. However, you know, for me, Eubank should be in with a different opponent. I'll come to that point a bit later. But for now, that Eubank Jr. Seremeta fight, that's where it should be on the card. It should be the 4th fight on the card in the running order. It should be there replacing Opetaia Massey. That is where I would put that fight. The next fight I would have on the card is Opetaia Massey, which replaces Wardley Clarke in that position. For me, this is a perfectly reasonable opponent for Jay Opetaia to fight, given that I can't really see anybody else wanting to fight him right now. The cruiserweight division's a bit light. Massey's all right. He had a really good war against Isaac Chamberlain last time out. I know he had a points loss to Joseph Parker as well, which is kind of obscure because he is a cruiserweight. Jack Massey, not a massive one either. So I think Massey's got a decent level of ability, but I expect Jay Opetaia to run straight through him. It is for a world title, which means it's a significantly important fight. But in terms of it being a competitive matchup, I think it's going to be easy work for Opetaia. I think it'll be exciting. I really like Jay Opetaia. I think he's got really good boxing fundamentals. He's a very sharp counter puncher. He's got a really nice jab. He's got good power, very athletic, very good on his feet. And I think he'll blow Massey away. I think Massey can fiddle his way through the rounds. I think he's a decently good technical boxer. I really like the way he was countering off of Chamberlain's jab in that fight. And it was a war, and he showed he's got the minerals to be in there. But I do think that Opetaia will have too much for him. So I'm putting Opetaia, Massey next in the running order. Next up, I got Fabio Wardley against Frazer Clarke, replacing that Eubank Jr. fight as the third fight in the running order. Third from the top, in the running order. This is, for me, probably the second most exciting fight on the card after the main event. The first fight was incredible. It was a grueling battle. Wardley, the far less experienced man, but with the superior athleticism and probably greater natural ability. Frazer Clarke, the sort of grizzled amateur vet who'd come through the system, in there doing the best that he could. It was a 50-50 fight, and it proved to be that way. They had the split decision draw in that fight. Everybody wants to see the rematch because it was such a good first fight. Frazer Clarke, probably the technically better fighter, showed great toughness. Wardley, for his experience level, what he's been able to do coming from that white collar background is really exceptional. It's really good stuff. Everybody wants to see that fight again. I would love to see the winner fight Moses Satauma and get him fast-tracked and get him into that position as quickly as possible where he can challenge and try and become, that youngest ever heavyweight champion of the world, try and break Mike Tyson's record. So that fight is of great interest and intrigue to me, and it's one, that I hope happens. But regardless, I'm really looking forward to this heavyweight fight. And a hallmark of these Saudi cards has been heavyweight fights, and so for me, that's a really exciting fight that I'm looking forward to. Next up on the card, it's a difficult one, and part of me thinks that Wardley Clarke should be the chief support because I think it will be the most exciting or second most exciting fight on the card. But I've got Stevenson Cordina. I'm keeping it exactly the same spot. Probably, I think the reason for this is because of the level that these guys have both fought at. Shakur Stevenson is deemed to be pound for pound one of the top fighters in the world right now. Joe Cordina, a great technician, a former world champion. He's moving up in weight. I don't think the size will matter too much because Stevenson has also come up from a lighter weight division, so I think they'll be roughly the same size on the night. But Cordina coming off that devastating Kakacha loss, and you sort of think, is this really the test that that Shakur Stevenson needs? We'll talk more about that fight in a minute, but I've got that as the chief support. And then, of course, Bivol Beterbiev. Nothing to dislike there. That is the main event. That is the fight that we are all really, really excited about. Beterbiev, Bivol, Beterbiev, whichever way you want to put it. What I'd say all in all is this card kind of reminds me of one of the Anthony Joshua cards from back in the day where you would put these big names on the card, but the matchups actually weren't that good, or they were sort of seemingly competitive, but not that competitive. I feel like this kind of makes me feel like those AJ cards, those big AJ Wembley cards, where AJ would invest money in the undercard, but really in just getting those big names on. Maybe one other like decent fight, but other than that, it was just about getting names on the card in fights that weren't that competitive. And really, that's what this reminds me of. It really reminds me of an AJ Wembley card. Point number 2, we're coming back to Eubank Jr., and we're talking about that opponent that he's facing in Zerameta. As I said before, guys, this isn't really a fight that I want to see. It's not a fight that I'm super interested in, and yet we've got it, and that kind of sums up Eubank Jr.'s career to an extent. There's been a lot of moments where I feel like there was good opponents for him to face, and he's kind of taken the easy solution, or the solution of least resistance, where, it's maximum reward for the least risk, and fair enough, I respect it. He can do whatever he wants in his career, but as a fan, I get to call it how I see it and how I want to see it. I would like to see him fight Janibek. Janibek doesn't have an opponent right now. He's got 2 of the world titles at 160 pounds. And, it's a great opportunity for Eubank to go and try and win a world title. Can he beat Janibek? I really don't know. I've not watched enough of Janibek. I'd like to see more of him, but he's a legitimate unified world champion. And that's exactly who Eubank Jr. should be targeting if he's serious about being a world champion at 160 pounds. So let's hope this is just a tune-up for Eubank, and then he's going to go and try and get that world title. I personally think he's still waiting for that Conor Benn fight. I think he'd like to fight Terence Crawford. I basically think he just wants like a nice big fight, a nice big payday. I don't think whether or not he's a world champion matters to him that much. I think he's kind of proven that now. If actions are a language, what are his actions telling us? All right, his actions tell us he doesn't give a damn about belts. And fair enough, he doesn't care about them. He just wants to make as much money as possible. But I'd like to see him fight Janibek. That's the fight I would like to see. And to justify that spot on the card, I'd want to see him in a more competitive, more serious fight. That would be a nice chief support, possibly a main event. Maybe not for the standard of these Saudi cards, but that fight would have been great. Point number 3 is about Stevenson Cordina, and it's a difficult one, guys, because obviously all of us would like to see that Cepeda fight. Cepeda fought as recently as July, so he's maybe not quite ready for that Shakur Stevenson fight. I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes with that one, but I think that would be a much better fight than this in terms of bringing the best out of Shakur Stevenson. What I'd say about Cordina, he's more of a technical fighter. He definitely can punch. We've seen that. But this fight, for me, I think it's going to be a bit of a bore fest, guys. And so what I'd say about it, for it to be the chief support and for Shakur Stevenson to change the narrative around himself, I think he needs to be a lot more aggressive in this fight. I think he needs to box more aggressively. I think he needs to stay in the pocket more. I think he needs to take a few more chances than he normally does. Will he do that? Probably not. I think he prioritizes winning over everything else. And I think he doesn't really care whether or not people find him entertaining to watch. He cares about whether or not he uses his maximum boxing ability to get to hit and not get hit. As long as he's not getting hit and he's landing a few shots around, that's all that matters to him. But someone needs to get in his ear and have a word with him and say, look, mate, you've got to entertain here. You've got to change the narrative around yourself if you ever want to get these really big paydays. When it comes to that Tank fight, Shakur will need Tank a lot more than Tank will need Shakur. And so the purses will pay out as such, as I would imagine. That's the fight we all want to see. I really would have loved that Lomachenko fight. Obviously, you're not going to get that as a chief support. That's a main event all day. Stevenson-Lomachenko would have been great. Stevenson-Tank would be great. That's what I'd like to see. I don't see Cordina really troubling Stevenson. And it's chief support because of what both guys have achieved in their careers. But in terms of how much it's going to entertain, it's a difficult one. But yeah, someone needs to get in his ear and be like, look, mate, you need to make this entertaining. You need to put it on the line here. And you need to be more aggressive. You need to change the narrative. You need to get people excited. That is going to kill the vibe before the main event, potentially. I hope it doesn't, but let's see what happens in that one. The fourth thing that I would potentially change about this card is the timing of it, because I'm quite concerned about Beterbiev's injury. I've always fancied Beterbiev to beat Bivol. I think he's the more complete boxer. He's the better puncher for sure. I think Bivol's excellent. He's super elite. But I just think Beterbiev is on a slightly different level. However, since he's had this major injury and he's been out, the original fight to get rearranged, I'm a bit concerned that he might not be 100% for this fight. I really hope that he is. He's mega experienced. But he's getting on now in terms of age, so he probably needs it. But at that age, that serious of an injury, I'm very concerned about the level he'll be able to perform to. And, Eubank Jr.'s got himself a tune-up fight here. If anybody needed a tune-up, it was probably Beterbiev. But we'll see what happens. Look, I don't want to delay this card, guys. I'm just speaking in fantasy land. What would the ideal situation be? Beterbiev would have a tune-up, make sure he's all fit and good to go, and then he'd go and fight Bivol and, potentially get the win. So I would like to have seen Beterbiev know that he's 100% for this matchup, 100% for this fight, ready to go. The final thing, the fifth and final change that I would like to have seen in this card was another heavyweight fight. Honestly, if I look at the running order, I could have done without Whittaker Cameron, for example, on there. Whatever, Nicholson Chapman, whichever fight you want to remove, take your pick. But I would like to have seen another heavyweight matchup on this card. That's becoming a bit of a hallmark of these Saudi cards, having multiple heavyweight fights. And we've got just the one. It's a great one, but I'd like to have added another one to it. Looking at the sort of top 10 rankings, I know we've had quite a few of them out in action quite recently, so I appreciate that, the likes of Jared Anderson, Martin Bakole are probably not going to be quite ready for it. But I think Ajit Kabayel could potentially have featured on the card. Joseph Parker, Zile Zhang, Michael Hunter, Frank Sanchez, Otto Wallin. They're all guys that I wouldn't mind seeing on this card. Maybe even Moses Atama, with how quickly he got through his last opponent, came out completely unscathed. I just would have liked to have seen another heavyweight matchup on this card, and it's a little bit disappointing that it's not there. Look, I understand it. It seems like the budget for this show is probably a little bit different, but yeah, overall, guys, for me, this card is below the quality of the other ones we've seen. Again, I'm going to watch it. I'm looking forward to it, but it's just not quite as good. Guys, get your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of this card? What would you change about it? What are you excited for? Who do you think is going to win between Beterbiev and Bivol? Who do you think is going to win that Clarke-Wardley rematch? I'm going to give you my quick predictions now. Let's quickly go through the running order. So I'm going to ignore the first couple because I don't really know much about them. I think Whittaker will beat Liam Cameron. I think he'll probably win on points. I think Opetaia will run through Jack Massey. I think that'll be a knockout win, a stoppage. Wardley-Clarke, it's a tough one. I'm going to go with Fabio Wardley purely because I believe he's got the highest ceiling for improvement. The guy's been on such a fast track. The guy, that was the most experienced, best opponent he's been in with by a mile so far, and he'll have learned so much from that fight. Athletically, he's so gifted. I really think that he'll get the win in the rematch. I just think he's got the highest ceiling to have a better performance over Frazer Clarke. We could talk about that one in more detail, but that's my top-level feelings about it. Eubank Jr. Zaramata, Eubank Jr. should get through it. If he doesn't, then he might have to call it a day. Shakur Stevenson, Joe Cordina. I see Stevenson winning that one on points. Again, really a stoppage would be ideal here for him and for his career, for the direction he's going in. A stoppage win would be absolutely incredible for Shakur Stevenson. I think it's something that he actually needs for his career right now, so he's going to have to go for that. And Beterbiev Bivol, as I said, guys, I'm going to do a proper detailed game film analysis before I go into it and look at it properly from a technical standpoint. Off my gut, my instincts, Originally, I had Beterbiev winning this fight, but coming off the back of this significant injury, I think Bivol's going to outbox him. I think Bivol's going to win this one on points. That's my prediction for the fight right now, but I'm going to go into it in more detail. My prediction could definitely change close to the fight. Guys, please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. On to the next one.